Have you ever felt like your prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling, like God can't hear you through the cracks of your broken heart? Have you ever knelt down with tears streaming, with hope slipping through your fingers, and wondered if anyone, if anything, even cares? Tonight, I want to speak to the deep ache inside you, to that place where pain feels heavier than faith, where sorrow feels louder than praise. Because I want you to know, even when your heart is shattered, even when the pieces feel too jagged to pray over, there is a power in your brokenness. There is a strength in lifting up words that tremble, in whispering prayers that are more tears than sentences. Your broken heart is not the end of your story. It is the gateway to a miracle, to a healing that surpasses understanding. And tonight, we are going to learn how to pray, not from the place of perfection, but from the depth of our pain, because it is in our brokenness that the most powerful prayers rise. When your heart is broken, it can feel as though the world has turned against you, as though every hope and dream has been ripped away in an instant. The weight of grief, disappointment, and loss can press so heavily on your chest that even breathing feels like a struggle. In those moments, praying can seem impossible. You may wonder if your words are heard, if your tears matter, if anyone, let alone God, cares about the depth of your pain. Yet it is precisely in these moments, when your heart is shattered and your spirit feels weak, that the power of prayer becomes most real and transformative. Praying with a broken heart is not about finding the perfect words or reciting a flawless prayer. It is about lifting up the fragments of your soul and offering them honestly, vulnerably, and unreservedly. There is incredible power in raw, authentic prayer because it strips away pretense and reveals the true condition of your heart. It allows you to bring your pain, your confusion, your anger, and your sorrow directly before God without masks or illusions. And in that act of surrender, a profound connection begins to form, a connection that cannot be forged in moments of comfort or certainty. When you pray with a broken heart, you are acknowledging your dependence, your need, and your desire for healing beyond what you can create on your own. You are opening yourself to transformation, because true prayer changes not only circumstances, but also the person who prays. Every tear shed, every whispered word of pain, every groan of the Spirit carries a weight that cannot be measured, but is seen and valued in the spiritual realm. This is the power of praying from brokenness. It takes what is fragmented, what feels useless, and turns it into a conduit for hope, restoration, and divine intervention. It is in those quiet, tearful moments that your soul learns resilience, that your faith deepens, and that your heart begins to understand that brokenness is not weakness, but a fertile ground for growth. When you bring your shattered pieces to prayer, you allow the divine presence to meet you exactly where you are. The act of praying in brokenness reminds you that your pain is not wasted, your tears are not ignored, and your struggles are not meaningless. It teaches patience, humility, and trust. And over time, you discover that even in the midst of heartache, the prayers lifted from that place carry a power that can move mountains, heal wounds, and bring peace that surpasses understanding. The power of praying with a broken heart is not in perfection, it is in surrender, honesty, and the willingness to let God transform your deepest pain into a source of strength, hope, and renewed faith. It is in this brokenness that the soul finds its greatest expression of prayer, and in that expression, miracles begin to unfold. Pain has a way of shaking us to our core, leaving us feeling lost, defeated, and unsure of how to move forward. Yet it is often in the midst of that very pain that the most profound growth can occur. When we experience hurt, heartbreak, or disappointment, it is easy to see only the darkness and feel trapped in the weight of our circumstances. But what if we could view pain not as a dead end, but as a pathway? What if the struggles we endure, the moments that seem unbearable, were actually shaping us into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate versions of ourselves? Turning pain into a pathway for spiritual growth requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to embrace discomfort and see it as a teacher rather than a tormentor. It begins with acknowledging the pain fully, without denial or suppression, and allowing ourselves to feel deeply. There is power in feeling, in recognizing the rawness of our experiences, because it opens the door to understanding, healing, and transformation. When we confront our pain with honesty, we create space for reflection. We begin to ask ourselves difficult questions. What is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? What strength can I uncover within myself that I never knew existed? Every trial, every sorrow carries a lesson for those willing to seek it. Spiritual growth through pain is not instantaneous. It is a journey that unfolds gradually as we remain committed to learning and evolving through our experiences. It teaches resilience, patience, and humility. It reminds us that we are not defined by our suffering, but by how we respond to it. When we allow pain to guide us toward growth, we discover a deeper connection to ourselves and to the divine. Our faith is strengthened, not because life becomes easier, but because we learn to navigate life's challenges with courage and trust. Pain also cultivates empathy and compassion, enabling us to relate more fully to others who are suffering. Our own trials equip us to be a source of comfort, encouragement, and wisdom to those walking similar paths. In this way, personal pain transforms into a shared gift, a way to uplift and support others. By turning pain into a pathway for spiritual growth, we reclaim our power, finding meaning in experiences that once seemed meaningless. We emerge not broken, but refined, with hearts that are more resilient and spirits that are more expansive. Ultimately, the process of embracing pain as a teacher allows us to move forward with renewed purpose, understanding that every hardship is an opportunity to grow closer to our truest selves and to the source of all strength. The journey through pain is not easy, but it is transformative, and those who walk it with intention discover that even the deepest wounds can lead to the most profound growth and spiritual awakening. Waiting is never easy, especially when it comes to the things we pray for most. We pour out our hearts, whisper our deepest desires, and cry out for guidance. Yet answers often feel delayed, and the silence can be deafening. It is in these moments of waiting that our faith is tested and our patience is stretched beyond what we thought we could endure. Trusting God's timing is one of the greatest challenges we face as human beings, because we see only fragments of the bigger picture. We cannot always understand why certain doors remain closed, why some prayers take longer to be answered, or why circumstances unfold in ways we did not anticipate. Yet, There is profound wisdom in learning to trust the timing of a higher power. Life is not meant to be rushed, and often the delays and detours we experience are preparing us for something far greater than we could have imagined. Trusting God's timing requires surrender, a willingness to release control, and acknowledge that there is a plan unfolding even when we cannot see it. It calls for patience, not as a passive waiting, but as an active, hopeful expectation that what is meant for us will arrive at the perfect moment. This trust does not come easily, especially when we are weary, frustrated, or heartbroken. It is cultivated through prayer, reflection, and the quiet moments when we remind ourselves that we are not alone in our journey. Trusting God's timing also teaches us resilience. It encourages us to persevere, to continue walking forward, even when the road seems uncertain or the answers seem distant. It allows us to find peace in the midst of chaos, knowing that everything is unfolding according to a plan far greater than our own understanding. When we embrace this trust, we begin to see that delays are not denials and setbacks are not failures. They are opportunities to grow, to strengthen our faith, and to prepare ourselves for the blessings that lie ahead. Waiting with trust also deepens our spiritual life. It helps us develop humility, reminding us that we are part of a larger story, and it nurtures gratitude as we learn to appreciate the timing and alignment of events that ultimately work in our favor. Trusting God's timing transforms the way we approach life's challenges. Instead of succumbing to impatience or despair, we learn to wait with hope, to walk in faith, and to remain steadfast in the belief that the right things will come at the right moment. It is in this surrender to divine timing that we find peace, clarity, and a profound sense of assurance that everything we need will arrive exactly when it is meant to. And in the waiting, we discover a deeper strength within ourselves, a resilience that prepares us not only for the answers we seek, but for the life we are destined to live. Even in the darkest seasons of life, when hope feels like a distant memory and the weight of circumstances seems unbearable, it is still possible to find a glimmer of light. Finding hope and healing through heartfelt prayers is not about ignoring the pain or pretending that everything is fine. It is about acknowledging the reality of our struggles while reaching beyond them for something greater, something that can restore our spirit and bring peace to our hearts. Heartfelt prayer begins with honesty. It is not about polished words or perfect sentences. It is about speaking from the depth of your being, allowing your vulnerability to meet the divine. When you pour out your heart in prayer, every tear, every trembling word, every silent cry becomes a bridge between your brokenness and your restoration. There is immense power in this kind of prayer because it reflects the truest parts of who you are, the parts that long for comfort, guidance, and renewal. Through heartfelt prayer, hope begins to take root. It is a gentle, persistent force that reminds you that even when circumstances feel hopeless, there is a reason to believe that things can change. Hope grows when we lift our eyes beyond the pain and imagine a future where healing is possible. It fuels resilience, giving us the courage to continue moving forward, even when the path is uncertain. Healing, too, is found in this act of reaching out with sincerity. Prayer has a unique way of touching not only the mind and soul, but also the heart. It creates a space where wounds can begin to mend, where the burden of grief, regret, or loss can be eased, and where peace can gradually replace despair. Healing does not always come instantly, and it does not necessarily erase the scars, but it changes the way we relate to our pain. Through prayer, we learn to carry our experiences with grace and strength, and we find the inner resources to rebuild, to forgive, and to embrace life again. Moreover, heartfelt prayer connects us to something larger than ourselves. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles and that there is a source of love and compassion that is always available. This connection fosters trust and reassurance, helping us navigate difficult seasons with a sense of purpose and clarity. Over time, the combination of hope and healing through prayer transforms the way we experience life. It allows us to approach challenges with patience, to face setbacks with courage, and to celebrate moments of joy with gratitude. Every prayer becomes a step toward restoration, every heartfelt expression a seed for renewal. Finding hope and healing through heartfelt prayer is a journey, not a destination. It is an ongoing practice of turning to the divine, of opening our hearts fully, and of trusting that even in the midst of suffering, restoration is possible. Through this process, we discover that hope is never lost, healing is always within reach, and the power of heartfelt prayer can lift us from despair into light, strength, and peace. Vulnerability is often seen as weakness, something to hide or protect. But in the context of prayer, it becomes a remarkable source of strength. Embracing vulnerability allows us to come before the divine with honesty, laying bare our fears, our failures, and the deepest longings of our hearts. When we attempt to appear strong, composed, or unshakable, our prayers can become hollow, lacking the depth and authenticity that move the spirit and invite transformation. True prayer is born from openness, from the willingness to expose our hearts without reservation. It is in this exposure that power emerges because it signals trust, surrender, and recognition of something greater than ourselves. Vulnerability in prayer means admitting that we do not have all the answers, that our strength is limited, and that our need for guidance is real and urgent. It is the act of saying, "Here I am with all my brokenness, my doubts, my fears, and my hopes. I need you." This act of laying ourselves bare is not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of faith and courage. When we embrace vulnerability, we also open ourselves to receiving divine guidance, comfort, and healing in ways we could never anticipate. It allows us to move past pride, shame, and pretense, creating space for true connection and transformation. Vulnerable prayer has the power to break chains of despair, to lift burdens that have weighed heavily on the heart, and to bring clarity where confusion once reigned. It teaches us humility, reminding us that we are not in control of everything, and that surrender is not defeat, but an essential step toward growth and renewal. Furthermore, vulnerability strengthens our relationships with others. As we learn to pray openly, we are often inspired to live more authentically in daily life, fostering deeper empathy, compassion, and understanding for those around us. By modeling openness and honesty, we encourage others to embrace their own struggles and seek connection, healing, and support. In this way, vulnerability becomes a ripple effect, touching not only our own lives, but the lives of those we encounter. Embracing vulnerability in prayer is also a process of self-discovery. It teaches us to confront our limitations, acknowledge our emotions, and trust in a higher power to guide us. Every moment of honesty, every tear shed in sincerity, every whispered plea strengthens the spirit and builds resilience. It allows us to face life's challenges with courage, knowing that our openness is not a liability, but a source of empowerment. Ultimately, vulnerability in prayer transforms both the act of praying and the person who prays. It turns fear into faith, weakness into strength, and uncertainty into trust. It reminds us that we do not have to carry our burdens alone, that admitting our need is not shameful, and that surrendering our hearts fully can unlock a profound connection, healing, and renewal. By embracing vulnerability, we discover that true strength is not in hiding our pain, but in confronting it with courage, offering it in prayer, and allowing it to be transformed into hope, resilience, and divine guidance. Vulnerability is the doorway to authentic prayer, and through it, we find the deepest expression of faith and the greatest source of spiritual power. As we draw this message to a close, I want you to remember that brokenness does not disqualify you from being heard, from being seen, or from experiencing the fullness of life and restoration. Praying with a broken heart is not a sign of weakness. It is a declaration of courage, faith, and honesty. It is the acknowledgement that even in our deepest pain, we are reaching for something greater, something capable of healing, guiding, and renewing us. Your pain can become a pathway for growth. Your waiting can strengthen your faith, and your heartfelt prayers can ignite hope even in the darkest seasons. Trusting in divine timing reminds us that delays are not denials, and that every hardship carries the seed of a future blessing. Hope and healing are available when we open our hearts fully and embrace the power of prayer with authenticity and vulnerability. Every tear, every whispered word, every moment of honest surrender is a step toward restoration, resilience, and renewed strength. So do not hide your brokenness, do not suppress your pain, and do not doubt the power of your prayers. Let your vulnerability become your strength, your honesty become your bridge, and your faith become your anchor. The journey through a broken heart is not easy, but it is transformative. It teaches patience, nurtures compassion, and deepens our connection to ourselves, to others, to the divine. Remember that in every broken piece of your heart, there lies the possibility of restoration. In every moment of despair, there lies the seed of hope. And in every sincere prayer, there lies the power to move mountains. As you leave here today, carry this truth with you. Your broken heart is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a journey toward healing, strength, and a deeper, more powerful faith. Keep praying, keep believing, and keep trusting, because even in the midst of pain, miracles are born, and your heart can be made whole again.